The first thing I noticed was the money on the kitchen floor. Several $100 bills had fallen from my coat. They were wet from the snow and marked with dark red stains. Across the room, a stranger stood beside the door, holding a phone in his hand. "Before I call the police," he said quietly, "tell me whether the man you ran from is still alive." I opened my mouth, but no words came out. Only 30 minutes earlier, I had been standing inside a locked study with a heavy brass clock in my hands. A man had been lying beside the desk. He was not moving. And the money in my pocket did not belong to me. My name is Nora Hayes. I was 24 years old, and until that winter night, I had never stolen anything. I lived in Cedar Hollow, a small town surrounded by pine forests and low mountains. Tourists came during the summer to walk beside the lake. In winter, the streets became quiet, and snow covered almost everything. People often said Cedar Hollow was peaceful. They were wrong. I worked at a bakery near the town square. Every morning, I arrived before sunrise and prepared bread, pies, and sweet rolls. The work was tiring, but I was thankful for it. My younger brother, Caleb, depended on me. He was 17, still in school, and much too proud to admit when he needed help. Our mother had died 3 years earlier after a long illness. Our father had disappeared from our lives when Caleb was still a child. After our mother's death, I became more than Caleb's sister. I became the person who paid the rent, cooked dinner, spoke with his teachers, and waited for him whenever he came home late. Most nights, we had very little money left after paying our bills. Still, I believed we were doing all right. Then, one Thursday evening, Caleb came through the back door with a cut above his eye. He quickly turned his face away from me. "What happened?" I asked. "Nothing." I put down the plate I was drying. "Caleb, look at me." He stood beside the door without removing his coat. His lower lip was shaking, though he tried to hide it. When he finally looked at me, I saw fear in his eyes. Not ordinary fear. It was the kind of fear that makes a person feel trapped. 2 months earlier, Caleb had damaged a motorcycle that belonged to one of his friends. He had been too ashamed to tell me. Instead, he borrowed money from a man named Ross Danner, who owned a repair shop outside town. Ross was not a normal businessman. He lent money to young people who could not borrow from a bank. At first, the amount seemed small. Then he added new fees every week. Caleb had borrowed $3,000. Ross now wanted almost $9,000. "He gave me until Monday," Caleb said. "If I don't pay, he'll come here." "What does that mean?" Caleb touched the cut above his eye. "I think you know what it means." My stomach became cold. "We'll go to the police." "No. We have to." "You don't understand. Ross knows people. He said if I talk, he'll tell them I stole the motorcycle. He has papers with my name on them." "Did you steal it?" "No, but no one will believe me. I signed something without reading it." I wanted to shout at him. I wanted to ask how he could have been so careless. But he already looked broken. I pulled him into my arms. For a few seconds, he stood stiffly. Then his shoulders began to shake. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I thought I could fix it before you found out." That night, I sat at our small kitchen table until morning. I counted every dollar we had. I checked an old savings account that held only $412. I even searched through the box where our mother had kept her jewelry. There was nothing valuable left. At 6 in the morning, I went to work without sleeping. The bakery was warm, and the windows were covered with steam. I tried to focus on the bread in front of me, but I kept hearing Caleb's words. He gave me until Monday. Shortly after 9, a black car stopped outside. A man named Grant Mercer entered the bakery. Grant was 38 and owned several apartment buildings, 2 car dealerships, and most of the land near the lake. He wore expensive coats and never seemed to hurry. People in Cedar Hollow treated him with respect. They also became quieter whenever he walked into a room. Grant came to the bakery at least twice a week. He always asked me to serve him, even when another worker was free. That morning, he ordered coffee and watched me as I poured it. "You look tired, Nora." "I didn't sleep well." "Family trouble?" The question made me look at him. Grant smiled. "In a small town, people hear things." I placed the cup in front of him. "What have you heard?" "That your brother has made some poor choices." My hand tightened around the coffee pot. Grant leaned closer. "I may be able to help." "I didn't ask for help." "No. You never do." He took a slow drink, then placed a business card on the counter. "Come to my house this evening. 7 o'clock. I'm working." "Not at 7. I did not touch the card. Grant stood and buttoned his coat. "Monday is very close, Nora." Then he walked out. For the rest of the day, the card remained beside the cash register. I tried not to look at it. At 6:30, I put it in my pocket. Grant's house stood above Cedar Hollow on a private road. It was a large stone building with tall windows and iron gates. As I walked toward the front door, I felt as though the house were watching me. Grant opened the door himself. "I knew you would come. I only want to talk." "Of course." He led me into a study at the back of the house. A fire burned beside a dark wooden desk. On the walls were photographs of Grant shaking hands with important people. He offered me a drink. I refused. "My brother needs $9,000, I said. "I can repay you every month." Grant sat behind his desk. "You would spend years paying me back. I'll work 2 jobs. And what happens the next time your brother makes a mistake?" "He won't." "You cannot promise that." He opened a drawer and removed a thick envelope. Then he placed it on the desk between us. "There are $10,000 inside." I stared at it. "What do you want?" Grant's expression changed. The friendly smile disappeared. "I want a wife." For a moment, I thought I had misunderstood him. "A wife? You need security. Your brother needs protection. I need someone suitable beside me. You don't know me." "I know enough." I stood quickly. "I came here to borrow money, not to sell myself." Grant did not move. "Do not be dramatic. Many people marry for less. I don't love you. Love is unreliable." His calm voice made the room feel colder. "I can give you a home. Your brother can finish school. You will never work behind a bakery counter again." "And if I say no?" Grant looked at the envelope. "Then Monday will arrive." I walked out without taking the money. Snow had started falling. By the time I reached home, my shoes were wet, and my hands were numb. Caleb was asleep on the couch. There was another bruise on his neck. I stood over him for a long time. Then I saw a folded piece of paper on the table. It had been pushed under our front door. $9,000. Monday morning. No more excuses. Below the words was a photograph of Caleb leaving his school. I could not breathe. At midnight, I walked back toward Grant Mercer's house. I told myself I was going there to accept his offer. But that was not true. Earlier that day, while sitting in his study, I had watched him open a small safe behind a painting. I had seen him enter 4 numbers. I remembered those numbers. The side door of the house was unlocked. Grant often left it that way because he believed no one in Cedar Hollow would dare enter his home. I moved through the dark hallway without turning on a light. Every sound seemed too loud. The floor moved under my shoes. The old clock near the stairs counted each second. When I reached the study, I closed the door behind me. The safe was exactly where I remembered it. My fingers shook as I entered the code. For one terrible second, nothing happened. Then the lock opened. Inside were several envelopes, legal papers, a watch, and more cash than I had ever seen in my life. I only needed $9,000. I counted the bills twice. Then I placed them inside my coat. As I closed the safe, a lamp came on behind me. Grant was standing in the doorway. He wore a white shirt and dark trousers. His face showed no surprise. "I wondered how desperate you were," he said. I stepped away from the safe. I'll return it. No, you won't. I made a mistake. You entered my house and opened my safe. That is more than a mistake. He closed the door and turned the key. The click of the lock sounded like a gunshot. I'm sorry, I said. Please let me leave. Grant walked toward me. You refused my offer, and now you steal from me. I need to protect my brother. You could have protected him by agreeing to my terms. He stopped only a few feet away. Now my terms have changed. I moved toward the door, but he caught my arm. His fingers pressed hard into my skin. Let go of me. You came into my house willingly. That doesn't give you the right to touch me. I pulled away, but he pushed me against the desk. A glass fell to the floor and broke. Grant reached for my coat. I saw the heavy brass clock beside my hand. I grabbed it. Stay away from me. He laughed softly. You are not going to use that. Then he stepped forward. I swung the clock. The sound was dull and terrible. Grant fell against the desk, then dropped to the floor. For several seconds, I could only stare at him. A thin line of blood appeared near his hair. His eyes were closed. Grant! He did not answer. I knelt beside him and touched his shoulder. Nothing. I should have called an ambulance. I should have called the police. Instead, I heard a car outside. Someone was coming up the driveway. Panic took control of me. I ran. I left through the side door and crossed the garden. Snow entered my shoes, and tree branches scratched my face. I kept moving until the lights of Grant's house disappeared behind the hill. The money was still inside my coat. I ran into the forest without knowing where I was going. After nearly an hour, I saw a light between the trees. It came from a small cabin beside an old road. I knocked on the door with both hands. A man opened it. He was tall, with dark hair and tired eyes. He wore a gray sweater and held a book in one hand. Please, I said. I need help. He looked past me into the forest. Is someone following you? I don't know. He let me inside. The cabin was simple but warm. Books covered one wall, and a kettle was heating on a small stove. The man gave me a towel and placed another piece of wood on the fire. My name is Owen, he said. You're freezing. I removed my coat. The money fell across the floor. Owen looked at the bills, then at the blood on my sleeve. He slowly placed his book on the table. Before I call the police, he said, tell me whether the man you ran from is still alive. I don't know. My voice broke. I think I killed him. Owen stared at me for a long moment. Then headlights moved across the cabin window. A car had stopped outside. Owen turned off the lamp. Did anyone see you come here? He whispered. Before I could answer, someone knocked 3 times on the door. The knock came again. This time, a man's voice followed it. Owen, open the door. Owen did not answer. He moved closer to the window and lifted one side of the curtain. His body became still. Who is it? I whispered. He turned toward me. Sheriff Cole. My legs almost gave way. The money was still scattered across the floor. Owen quickly picked it up and pushed it under a loose board near the fireplace. Go into the back room, he said. Are you hiding me? I'm giving you time to think. The sheriff knocked harder. Owen, I know you're awake. I moved toward the small back room, but then I stopped. What if Grant is dead? Owen looked directly into my eyes. Then running will not change that. Another voice came from outside. Sheriff, there are footprints near the trees. My heart started beating faster. Owen opened the backroom door. Stay quiet. I stepped inside. The room held a narrow bed, a wooden chair, and several boxes. Owen closed the door, leaving only a small line of light beneath it. A few seconds later, I heard the front door open. Late visit, Owen said. Sheriff Cole's voice was calm but firm. A man was attacked at the Mercer house tonight. I covered my mouth. Is he alive? Owen asked. For now. Relief moved through me so strongly that I nearly cried. Grant was alive. I had not killed him. But Sheriff Cole continued. Someone hit him and stole a large amount of money. We found footprints leading toward the forest. I've been reading all evening. Did you hear anything? No. There was a long silence. Then another man spoke. Sheriff, there's a wet coat by the stove. I looked down at myself. I was still wearing my bakery uniform. My wet coat had been hanging beside the fire when the sheriff entered. Owen answered without hesitation. I walked to town earlier. That coat is too small for you. The room became silent again. I looked around for another way out. There was a small window above the bed, but it was too narrow. Sheriff Cole stepped closer to the back room. I could hear his boots on the floor. Owen, who is here? No one. You have always been a poor liar. The door handle began to turn. I closed my eyes. Then the front door suddenly opened. Cold wind rushed into the cabin. A woman's voice called from outside. Sheriff, we found blood near the North Road. The handle stopped moving. Human blood? Sheriff Cole asked. We don't know yet, but there are tire marks too. The sheriff walked away from the back room. This place is not safe tonight, he told Owen. Lock your door. The men left. I waited until I heard their car drive away. Owen opened the door. You lied to the sheriff, I said. Yes. Why? He looked at the loose floorboard. Because Grant Mercer is not the innocent man people believe he is. I stepped into the main room. You know him? Owen poured water into 2 cups. His hands were steady, but his eyes were not. I used to work for him. I sat near the fire. Owen remained standing. 5 years ago, Grant bought several old apartment buildings in Cedar Hollow. I managed repairs and collected rent. At first, I thought he was helping the town. What happened? I found false papers. He was forcing families out of their homes, then selling the land for much more money. Did you report him? I tried. Owen gave a bitter smile. But Grant knew people in the sheriff's office, the bank, and the town council. The papers disappeared. A week later, I was accused of stealing from his company. I stared at him. Did you steal? No. But everyone believed him. Almost everyone. He sat across from me. My father became sick during the investigation. He died before my name was cleared. I left town and came here. So you hate Grant? I do. The honesty in his voice made me nervous. Then why help me? Is this about revenge? At first, I was not sure. Owen leaned forward. But you were shaking when you came through that door. You had blood on your sleeve, but none on your hands. You looked afraid, not dangerous. I stole his money. Why? My brother owes money to Ross Danner. Owen's expression changed. How much? $9,000. Ross works for Grant. I felt a cold pressure in my chest. What? Ross does not lend his own money. Grant gives him the cash. Ross finds people who are desperate, then makes their debt impossible to repay. I stood up. Why would Grant do that to Caleb? Maybe he wanted you to come to him. The room seemed to move around me. Grant had known about Caleb's debt before I told him. He had known the exact deadline. He planned this, I whispered. Owen nodded. Most likely. I thought of the envelope on Grant's desk. His calm smile. The way he had said Monday was very close. My fear slowly changed into anger. He used my brother to trap me. And he may not be finished. I looked toward the window. I have to go home. No. Caleb is alone. If Grant wakes up, he may send someone to your house. That is why I have to get there. Owen reached for his coat. Then I'm coming with you. We waited until the road became quiet. Owen moved the money from under the floor and placed it inside an old backpack. You should not take it, I said. You stole evidence from a criminal. It is still theft. Yes. And hitting him was still an attack. His words hurt, but they were true. We cannot pretend nothing happened, he continued. But we also cannot hand you to people who may already be protecting him. What do? We find proof. Proof of what? That Grant created Caleb's debt. That Ross works for him. And that you went to his house because he had trapped you. I shook my head. The papers were inside the safe. I only took the money. Did you see anything else? I closed my eyes, trying to remember. There had been envelopes, a watch, and legal papers. One envelope had Caleb's full name written across it. Yes, I said. There was a file with my brother's name. Owen picked up a flashlight. Then we need that file. You want to go back? Not tonight. The house will be full of police. Then how can we get it? Owen looked at me carefully. Someone inside Grant's house may help us. He told me about a woman named Mrs. Lane, Grant's housekeeper. She had worked for the Mercer family for more than 20 years. She knows everything that happens in that house, Owen said. Why would she help us? Because Grant destroyed her son's life too. Before we left the cabin, Owen removed a small key from a drawer. What is that? A key to the old road gate. We walked through the forest for nearly 40 minutes. The snow had stopped, but the wind was strong. Owen knew every path. He led me to a narrow road behind the town cemetery. His truck was parked inside an abandoned shed. Why do you keep it here? I asked. Grant's men sometimes watch the main road near my cabin. We drove without lights until we reached the edge of town. My house was dark. Owen parked behind a closed gas station, and we walked the last 2 blocks. The front door was open. I ran inside. Caleb. The living room was empty. A chair had been knocked over. One of the kitchen windows was broken. Caleb. There was no answer. Owen found a small drop of blood near the stairs. I felt sick. They took him. We don't know that. Of course they did. On the kitchen table, there was a note. Bring back what belongs to Grant. Come alone before sunrise. Below the message was an address. Owen read it twice. That is Ross Danner's repair shop. I have to go. That is what they expect. They have my brother. And if you go alone, they will have both of you. I grabbed the backpack. I don't care about the money. This is not about the money anymore. What do you mean? If Grant is still unconscious, Ross is acting on his own. He may be afraid. Frightened men make dangerous choices. I looked at the clock. It was almost 3 in the morning. What can we do? Owen pulled out his phone. Call Mrs. Lane. He dialed a number and waited. No one answered. He called again. This time, a woman picked up. Owen. Her voice sounded tired. I need to know Grant's condition. He woke up 20 minutes ago. My blood turned cold. Is he still at the house? Owen asked. No. An ambulance took him to the hospital. Sheriff Cole went with him. Did Grant say who attacked him? There was a pause. He said he did not see the person's face. Owen and I looked at each other. That made no sense. Grant had seen me clearly. Did he say anything else? Owen asked. He asked whether they found the missing money. Mrs. Lane, we need your help. She became quiet. Owen explained what had happened to Caleb. He did not tell her everything, but he told her about the file inside the safe. I know the file, she said. Can you get it? The police are still here. Then take a photograph. Another pause followed. Finally, Mrs. Lane said, give me 10 minutes. The call ended. I sat at the table, staring at the note. Why did Grant lie? I asked. He does not want the police to arrest you yet. Why not? Because then the money becomes evidence. The police will search his records. He wants to solve this privately. My phone began to ring. Caleb's name appeared on the screen. I answered immediately. Caleb. Nora. His voice was weak. Are you hurt? I'm okay. A man spoke in the background. Tell her to come. Caleb breathed heavily. Don't come alone. There was a sudden sound, as if someone had hit him. Then Ross took the phone. "You have 40 minutes. If you hurt him, I swear. You are not in a position to make threats. I have the money. Bring it." The call ended. I turned toward Owen. "We are going now." He did not argue. Instead, he opened a kitchen drawer and took out an old phone Caleb no longer used. "Does this still work?" "It should." He turned it on and placed it inside my coat pocket. "I will call it from my phone. Do not answer. Keep the call connected. You'll be able to hear everything." "Yes." "What if they search me?" "Then hide it before you enter." We drove toward the repair shop. The building stood beyond the town limits beside an empty highway. A single light burned above the garage door. Owen stopped the truck behind a row of trees. "I'll stay close," he said. "You cannot come inside." "I know." "What will you do?" "Listen. If something goes wrong, I'll call the state police." "Why not call them now?" "Because we need proof that Caleb is there. Local officers may warn Ross before anyone arrives." I took the backpack. Owen caught my hand before I opened the door. "Nora, listen to me. Give them the money. Do not try to be brave." "I'm not brave. You came back for your brother. That is brave enough." I left the truck and walked toward the repair shop. The garage door opened before I reached it. A large man stood inside. I recognized Ross from his shop advertisements. He was in his 40s, with a heavy face and a short grey beard. "Come in." The garage smelled of oil and cold metal. Caleb was sitting in a chair near the back wall. His hands were tied, and his lip was bleeding. I moved toward him. Ross blocked my way. "The money first." I handed him the backpack. He opened it and began counting. "You can let him go now." Ross smiled. "You caused a great deal of trouble tonight. I brought what you wanted. You hit Mr. Mercer. He attacked me. That is not the story he will tell. He told the sheriff he didn't see who hit him." Ross stopped counting. For the first time, he looked surprised. I knew Owen had been right. Ross did not know everything. "Let Caleb go," I said again. A door opened behind me. Grant Mercer stepped into the garage. A white bandage covered one side of his head. His face was pale, but his eyes were fully awake. "You should never believe everything you hear from a housekeeper," he said. My stomach dropped. Mrs. Lane had not been helping us. She had led Grant directly to me. Grant closed the door behind him. Ross stopped counting the money and stepped aside. "You should be in the hospital," I said. Grant touched the bandage on his head. "I was advised to stay. I chose not to." Caleb struggled against the ropes. "Let my sister go." Grant looked at him with mild interest. "You created this problem, Caleb." "No," I said. "You created it." Grant's eyes moved back to me. "You opened my safe. You stole from me. You struck me. You trapped my brother with a false debt. That is a serious accusation." I saw his file. "You saw a name on an envelope. You knew about the debt before I told you." Grant smiled. Cedar Hollow is a small town. I took a step toward Caleb. Ross grabbed my arm. Grant's expression became colder. "Do not make this more difficult. What do you want now? The money is only part of it." He walked toward a metal desk near the wall. On top of it was a folder, a pen, and a small recording device. "I want your cooperation." "With what?" "You will make a statement. You will say you entered my house to steal. You will say I surprised you, and you attacked me. That is what happened." "Not exactly." He opened the folder. "You will also say Owen Pierce planned everything." I stared at him. "Owen had nothing to do with it." "He hid you. He moved stolen money. He helped you avoid the police. He helped me because he knew what kind of man you are." Grant's jaw tightened. "Owen has been waiting for a chance to hurt me for years. So this is about him? This is about ending a problem." He turned the recording device toward me. You will say Owen told you where I kept the money. You will say he asked you to steal documents from my safe. I won't. Ross pulled my arm harder. Caleb shouted at him to stop. Grant did not raise his voice. If you refuse, your brother will be arrested for stealing a motorcycle and attacking Ross. He did neither. Ross will disagree. Ross gave me a slow smile. We have witnesses. You mean liars? Grant leaned closer. Courts do not always know the difference. My heart was beating so hard that I could hear it. Somewhere outside, Owen was listening. I needed to keep Grant talking. You arranged Caleb's loan because you wanted me to marry you. Grant's face remained calm. I offered to solve your problem. You made the problem. Prove it. The papers in your safe will prove it. Those papers no longer exist. For a moment, no one spoke. Grant took the pen and placed it beside the folder. Sign the statement. I looked at Caleb. His face was pale, but he gave a small shake of his head. No, he said. Ross struck the back of his chair. Be quiet. I moved toward him, but Grant blocked my path. You have 1 minute. And after I sign, Caleb goes home. And me. You come with me. The words entered the room like cold air. Where? Back to my house. I understood then. The marriage offer had never been about love or even respect. Grant did not want a partner. He wanted complete control. You think I'll live with you after this? You will have no other choice. Grant picked up the folder. You will be a frightened young woman who made a terrible mistake. I will be the generous man who chose not to press charges. And Owen will go to prison. Yes. I looked at the recording device. Why are you so afraid of him? Grant's smile disappeared. Owen had told me he once found false documents. He had believed the papers were gone. But perhaps Grant was not sure. Owen knows something, I said. Something more serious than stolen property. Ross looked at Grant. That small movement was enough. I had found a weak point. What did he discover? I asked. Grant stepped closer. You are wasting time. Was it only false rental papers? Or was there something else? Sign the statement. Did someone die because of you? Ross stopped smiling. Grant's face hardened. Then a phone began to ring. It was not mine. The sound came from Ross's pocket. He answered it with an angry voice. What? A man spoke quickly on the other end. I could not hear every word, but I heard 2 of them. Police cars. Ross looked toward the garage door. Grant took the phone from him. Which road? He listened, then ended the call. You called the police, he said to me. No. Ross searched my coat and found the old phone. The call was still connected. He looked at the screen, then threw the phone onto the floor and crushed it beneath his boot. Grant turned toward the windows. Find Owen. Ross opened a side door and shouted to someone outside. There were more men waiting. I had believed only Grant and Ross were inside. I was wrong. 2 men ran toward the trees. Grant grabbed the folder and recording device. We're leaving. He nodded toward Caleb. Bring the boy. Ross untied Caleb's feet but kept his hands bound. He pulled him out of the chair. I stepped in front of them. You said he could go. I said he could go after you signed. The sound of an engine came from the road. For one hopeful second, I thought it was the police. Then a dark truck stopped beside the garage. Ross pushed Caleb toward it. Grant caught my wrist. I fought him, but my body was weak from cold and fear. He forced me through the side door. The night outside was completely dark. One of Grant's men opened the back of the truck. Then a bright light appeared between the trees. Someone shouted. State police. Do not move. Grant froze. Ross reached inside his jacket. A gunshot broke the silence. I dropped to the ground. Caleb fell beside me. For a second, I thought he had been hit. Then he moved closer and covered his head. More lights appeared near the road. Police vehicles entered from both directions. Ross ran toward the garage. An officer ordered him to stop, but he kept moving. Another shot was fired. Ross fell beside the door. Grant released me and tried to reach the truck. 2 officers caught him before he could open it. He shouted that I had attacked and robbed him. No one listened. A man ran from the trees. It was Owen. His face was bleeding near one eye, and his coat was torn. One of Grant's men had found him near the truck, but Owen had escaped long enough to reach the highway. He had stopped a passing driver and called the state police. I ran toward him. "You're hurt." "I'm all right." He looked at Caleb. "Is he safe?" I turned. An officer was cutting the ropes from Caleb's hands. My brother stood and rushed toward me. I held him so tightly that he could barely breathe. For the first time that night, I allowed myself to cry. But the danger was not over. Sheriff Cole arrived several minutes later. He looked angry when he saw the state officers. "This is my area," he said. "I should have been informed." A state investigator named Mara Blake stepped out of an unmarked car. She was a woman in her 50s with short silver hair and a steady voice. "We received a report of kidnapping and organized threats," she said. "We also received several documents connected to Grant Mercer." Grant stopped arguing. He stared at her. "What documents?" Sheriff Cole asked. Investigator Blake looked toward the repair shop. "Financial records, loan agreements, property files, and private messages." "That is impossible," Grant said. Then another car arrived. Mrs. Lane stepped out. Her hands were shaking, but she walked directly toward Investigator Blake. Grant's face changed. "You," he said. Mrs. Lane did not look at him. She handed the investigator a large brown envelope. "I kept copies," she said. Grant shouted that she was a thief. Mrs. Lane finally turned toward him. "You destroyed my son's life. You were not going to destroy another family." I could not understand what had happened. "You told Grant where we were," I said. Her eyes filled with regret. "He was standing beside me when Owen called. I could not warn you." "Then how did the police know?" "Grant believed I gave him everything." She pointed toward the envelope. "But I had already sent copies to the state investigator." For years, Mrs. Lane had watched Grant hide contracts, change numbers, and pay people to remain silent. Her son had borrowed money from Ross 6 years earlier. When he could not repay it, Grant took his small construction business. Mrs. Lane's son left Cedar Hollow and never returned. She had stayed in Grant's house because she wanted evidence. The attack had finally given her a chance. While local officers searched the house, she photographed the documents in the safe. Then she found the file with Caleb's name. Inside it was a complete plan. Ross had arranged the motorcycle accident. One of his workers had damaged the bike after Caleb left it at the repair shop. The loan, the threats, and the increasing debt were all connected to Grant. There were also notes about me. My work hours. My address. The times I walked home. The days Grant visited the bakery. I felt sick when Investigator Blake told me. Grant had watched me for months. He had not waited for a chance to help me. He had built a trap. By sunrise, Ross was in the hospital under police guard. Grant and 2 of his men were taken away in separate vehicles. Sheriff Cole was not arrested that morning, but Investigator Blake took his phone and ordered him to remain available for questioning. Owen, Caleb, and I were brought to the state police office. For 6 hours, I answered questions. I told them about Grant's offer. I told them how I entered his house and opened the safe. I explained how he locked the study door and grabbed me. I did not hide the truth. "I took the money before he touched me," I said. Investigator Blake nodded. "Yes. So I'm still a thief. You did commit a crime." The words hurt, even though I expected them. "What happens now?" "That will be decided later. But the full situation matters." "I hit him with the clock." "You struck him after he locked the door, held your arm, and blocked your way out. Will I go to prison? She did not give me an easy promise. I cannot answer that today. Owen waited for me in the hallway. He had a dark bruise across his face. When I came out, he stood immediately. What did they say? That I have to wait. He nodded. You told them everything? Yes. Good. You could be charged too. For hiding you. For helping me move the money. I told them everything too. I sat beside him. I'm sorry. For what? For bringing this into your life. Owen looked down the empty hallway. Grant was already in my life. I just spent years pretending he wasn't. Caleb came out of another room with a blanket around his shoulders. He sat on my other side. I ruined everything, he said. No. I borrowed the money. You made a bad choice. Grant used it. If I had told you sooner, I might still have gone to him. He looked at me with tears in his eyes. I thought you would be disappointed. I was scared. That is different. I'm sorry. I held his hand. We both made mistakes. 3 days later, I was allowed to return home. The house felt different. The broken window had been covered with wood. The chair was still lying on the floor. A cup I had left beside the sink remained exactly where I had placed it. It was strange to see normal things after so much had changed. The bakery owner, Mrs. Bell, gave me 2 weeks away from work. She also brought food and refused to let me pay for it. News spread quickly through Cedar Hollow. Some people believed me. Others said I had planned the robbery and invented the rest after I was caught. I stopped reading comments online. Caleb returned to school, but I walked with him every morning. He hated it at first. Then, one day, he quietly thanked me. Owen came to visit every afternoon. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we sat in silence. I did not know what I felt for him. Gratitude was part of it, but there was something deeper too. Still, neither of us said anything. There were more important things to face. The investigation continued for several months. Grant's records connected him to illegal loans, false property sales, threats, and payments to local officials. Sheriff Cole had received money from one of Grant's companies. He claimed it was for consulting work. No one believed him. He lost his job and was later charged with hiding evidence. Ross admitted that he had threatened Caleb. He also admitted that Grant had chosen my brother because of me. In exchange for a lighter sentence, Ross gave the investigators names, dates, and account numbers. Grant continued to deny everything. Then Mrs. Lane gave the police one final piece of evidence. It was an audio recording from Grant's study. Years earlier, she had placed a small recorder beneath a cabinet. She had used it whenever Grant met with Ross. On one recording, Grant clearly explained his plan. He wanted Caleb to owe enough money that I could never repay it. He believed fear would bring me to his house. He was right. But he had not expected me to fight back. 8 months after that night, I stood in a courtroom. My hands were shaking. Owen sat behind me. Caleb sat beside him. Grant was across the room in a dark suit. When I looked at him, I remembered the locked study. I remembered his hand around my arm. I remembered believing that no one would ever know the truth. Then I looked at the judge. I admitted stealing the money. I admitted entering the house. I admitted hitting Grant. My lawyer explained the threats against Caleb and the trap Grant had created. Investigator Blake described the evidence. Mrs. Lane spoke about the documents and recordings. The judge was silent for a long time. Finally, she said I had made a serious and dangerous choice. She also said I had acted under extreme pressure, and that Grant had created that pressure for his own purpose. I did not go to prison. I received probation, community service, and an order to repay the money. The money had already been recovered from Ross's garage, so no actual loss remained. Still, the court wanted me to understand that fear did not erase responsibility. I accepted that. Grant received a much longer sentence. The charges against him included kidnapping, fraud, extortion, and criminal conspiracy. When officers led him from the courtroom, he looked at me one last time. There was no smile on his face. Only anger. But he could no longer reach me. Outside the courthouse, snow was falling again. It was lighter than the snow from that terrible night. Caleb hugged me. "It's over," he said. Almost. I still had to rebuild my life. But for the first time, rebuilding felt possible. A year later, Caleb graduated from high school. He did not become a mechanic, as I expected. He decided to study social work because he wanted to help young people who were in trouble. "I know what it feels like to be afraid to tell the truth," he said. I continued working at the bakery, but only for a while. Mrs. Lane used part of the money she received from a legal settlement to open a small cafe. She asked me to manage it with her. We called it the Open Door. We chose the name because both of us knew how much one open door could change a life. Owen repaired the old cabin and moved back into town. He began teaching evening classes at the community center. He helped people understand rental agreements, loan papers, and basic legal documents. One spring evening, he came into the cafe after closing. I was cleaning the tables. He placed 2 cups of tea near the window. "You still make tea too strong," I said. "You still drink it." I sat across from him. Outside, the town square was quiet. The trees had new green leaves, and the air smelled like rain. Owen looked nervous. I had never seen him nervous before. There's something I should have said a long time ago. My heart began to beat faster. "What?" "The night you came to my cabin, I thought you would bring trouble." "I did. You also brought me back to the world." I did not speak. He reached across the table and took my hand. I had been hiding for years. Not from Grant. From my own life. His voice became softer. "Then you knocked on my door." I looked at our hands. I was covered in snow, blood, and stolen money. Yes. That is not very romantic. It was memorable. I laughed for the first time that day. Owen smiled. "I don't know what happens next," he said. "But I would like to find out with you." I thought about the woman I had been. Tired. Afraid. Trying to carry every problem alone. I had believed love meant sacrifice without limits. Grant had tried to use that belief against me. Owen never asked me to give up my freedom. He simply stayed beside me while I learned how to keep it. "I would like that too," I said. We did not rush. We did not leave town or build a perfect life overnight. We learned each other slowly. We argued sometimes. We apologized. We gave each other space. Caleb visited often and ate more food than any one person should. Mrs. Lane complained about everything, but she smiled whenever Owen entered the cafe. Life became ordinary. And after so much fear, ordinary felt beautiful. Sometimes, on cold nights, I still remembered the brass clock in my hands. I remembered the moment before I struck Grant. I wondered what would have happened if I had made a different choice. Perhaps there was another way. Perhaps there always is, but fear makes it difficult to see. I could not change what I had done. I could only tell the truth, accept the consequences, and choose better when the next difficult moment arrived. 2 years after the trial, Owen and I walked to the old cabin. The loose floorboard near the fire was still there. He lifted it and found one forgotten bill beneath the dust. We both stared at it. Then I started laughing. Owen laughed too. We took the bill to the police station and handed it to Investigator Blake, who had come to town for another case. She looked at us as if we were both a little foolish. "You could have mailed it," she said. "I have learned not to carry money that does not belong to me," I replied. That evening, Owen and I stood outside the cabin as the sun disappeared behind the trees. He took my hand. "Do you regret knocking on my door?" he asked. I thought about Caleb, Mrs. Lane, the cafe, and the life we had built. "I regret many things," I said. "But not that. The night I stole Grant Mercer's money, I believed my life had ended. In truth, it was the night every hidden lie began to come into the light. It did not save me from consequences. It did not make my choices right. But it forced all of us to stop hiding. Caleb faced his fear. Mrs. Lane used her voice. Owen returned to his life. And I finally understood that asking for help was not weakness. The forest around us grew dark. A warm light shone from the cabin window. This time, I was not running toward it. I was walking home. Sometimes fear pushes good people into terrible choices. Nora broke the law, but she was also trapped by someone more powerful than her. What do you think? Should a person be forgiven when they do something wrong to protect someone they love?